Hello, everybody. Thank you for clicking in to this episode of All Geeked Out. Today, we're going to be talking about the 2024 horror film directed by Oz Perkins, Longlegs. So, we're going to talk about the movie Longlegs, all right? And this is, I almost kind of combine this into a kind of a companion episode, if you will, to my sci-fi, state of the sci-fi universe 2024 with a state of the horror movie universe 2024 because they are in such contrast right now. I feel, but I'm gonna stop not do that. I'm gonna spare you from that because I know that'll turn into like an hour long episode. I just want to quickly review Longlegs because it was such a highly anticipated movie for myself, and I know it was for a lot of people. There's been a lot of hype about this movie. I've heard everything from best horror movie all time, best horror movie of the decade, of the millennium, all this stuff, right? So, obviously, I've been a movie fan, and specifically horror, sci-fi, fantasy movie fan for a very long time. I've learned the the dangers of believing the hype, basically, of certain movies. Like usually, if you're a movie fan, a long time movie fan, and kind of a cinephile like myself, you can kind of see through all the expectations and the hype, especially nowadays, that movie studios are getting so creative with building their hype. Like they don't just do it outright. Like back in the day, they would have like a screening for movie critics, like newspaper. Like they would invite, whoever was doing the New York Times movie reviews at the time. That Los Angeles. Is it Los Angeles Times? I don't even know what Los Angeles is. The Chicago Tribune. I know Chicago has two of them, and the Chicago Herald. Like I think that's where like the whole Siskel and Ebert show came about, was because they were both the critics for the two main newspapers for Chicago, and they came together and had that was where Siskel and Ebert, that show, and that their whole reputation was born. Um, but yeah, you learn to like kind of see through all that crap. But nowadays it's like you got all they got to do is like kind of throw a little seed into Twitter or X or whatever they call it nowadays, or Facebook or Instagram. You throw a seed, and then you get these people that just generate this buzz about a movie that, usually I'd say like 8.5 times out of 10 does not live up to the hype. Okay. So, myself personally, I was not like thrown off by the hype of this movie. That said, I'm a Nick Cage fan. I've always felt he's one of the greatest actors of our time. You know, what throws people off from Nick Cage is he just does anything. Like he'll take any role, and whether it fits him or not, he'll do it. Like I think like he's like up there with like the Samuel L. Jacksons of the world for like how many films they've been in, and I bet Nicolas Cage has been the star in more films than Samuel L. Jackson. I don't know that for a fact, and I'm going to spare you from what I did last time, but I show you I don't have any external information, like media information. I do this off the top of my head, but I'm willing to bet that Nicolas Cage has been has had more leading roles than Samuel L. Jackson has. I could be wrong. If you know for a fact, and or even if you agree, if my belief is true, put it down in the comments, man. Let me know. Let me know if just crazy or whatever. But Yeah, Nicolas Cage is one of my favorite actors. It doesn't matter all the duds he's done. He's been in enough good roles to qualify him as one of the greats. Okay, and this role in Longlegs seems like it was just custom made for Nicolas Cage. I gotta say. Um, so before I get into this, I'm just gonna let you know I'm gonna do a spoiler free. I keep shaking the camera like that. I'm gonna do a spoiler free review uh, before I get into my spoiler review. Okay, just to give you an idea of should you see it in the theater or should you just wait till it's out on streaming like we do with most stuff. Now, me personally, when it comes to horror movies, I very rarely go see a horror movie in the theater. Um, and reasons for that is number one, I don't really like I have like social anxieties to begin with. Um, but I'm one of those people like those hardos that like think like you should not speak at all. Like your mouth should be shut completely in a movie theater. In respect to other people. Now, obviously, you're with somebody, you want to talk quietly. Like if I can hear you and you're trying to be quiet, that's fine. But there's people that just don't have that filter. There's people that don't have like that, like they don't have a volume control on their voice. They just have to talk at a certain level. And I feel like they are you're more likely to run into those people at horror movies and comedy movies than in any other movie. So I usually avoid going to see those movies in the theaters, horror and comedy, just because I just don't want to hear. I don't want to hear your opinion. If I wanted to hear your opinion, I'd ask for it. And that's kind of fucking ironic coming from a person that's doing a podcast where I'm giving you my opinion. But this is the proper channel for that. Like if you want everybody to know what you think about the movie, you don't have to tell us during the movie because we don't know who the fuck you are, and all we're gonna do is hate you. Go do a podcast. Go keep your mouth fucking shut during the movie. Then go home and do a podcast and tell everybody how you feel and talk as loud as you want. Especially in a horror movie. Especially in a horror movie like this. Now, I will say, I went and seen this in the theater yesterday, and the crowd was very, very, very good. They were not loud. You had a few here and there, and that's the thing. Like a horror movie seems like a horror movie gives you like that license. Like they want you to like they want to hear the women screaming. Anyway, so this is a movie that I would not normally see in a theater, and now you know why. But this weekend, I got stricken with a summertime flu. And if you've ever had a summertime flu, and I'm not a person that gets sick a lot, but I gotta say this shit kicked my fucking ass, like unbelievable. So I was bedridden for 2 days, Friday and Saturday, and Sunday I started feeling a little better. Well, Saturday night I started feeling a little better, so I talked to my wife. I'm like, hey, I want to just get out of the house tomorrow. I've been stuck in the house in the summer on a summer weekend, and Sunday, let's just go see a movie and we'll take a ride and whatever. So I convinced her to go see Longlegs, and yeah, she went. She's not really a horror movie fan, but she wanted to go. I think she kind of felt for me because I've just been so down and out. And so we went and saw Longlegs in the theater. And all right, so let's start with the initial reaction. My initial like impression when it first started was, wow, like wow, it hit you right off the bat, like boom, like right before the opening credits, and it's got this very like 70s aesthetic to it. Like the screen, so it starts out with like a small screen, right? Like it's a very square screen. And it's got the titles and like the MCMV, blah, 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 like all like the how they used to do it, like the how they used to do it. It's all Roman numerals and very like dismal colors, like not dismal, you know what I'm saying, like very like bland colors on it. It just felt like you were watching a movie in the 70s. And the opening sequence it grabs you. It's like, all right, here we go. This is where you get that, like everybody's talking about the comparisons to Silence of the Lambs. And I think it starts and ends in this short little sequence between the title screen and like the first bit of like real action that you see. And there's this, it's just, I mean, it's impossible not to compare it to Silence of the Lambs at this point because it's a female FBI agent, and it's on her first assignment, but then there's kind of, it kind of goes a little bit away from that, but then it gets into like that Seven, and I'm sure everybody's heard the comparisons to Seven, and there's also comparisons you could make to Zodiac, and maybe not the film. I mean, Zodiac is based on a true character. I've heard people like saying, "Oh, it's a lot like Zodiac, the movie Zodiac." Zodiac is based on a real life event, like serial killer, investigation. So, I mean, the only thing there's a little bit that's related to Zodiac, but I think people kind of blow that out of proportion. It's not that much like Zodiac. But there's another kind of horror trope that it kind of copies off, I would say, and that I'm going to get into that in my spoiler section. Because if I do, it'll kind of give a lot away, and I don't want anybody to go in more informed than I did, because I'll tell you, when I went in, and this is where I'm going to tell you if I liked it or not. I went into this, expecting one thing, and trying not to buy into all the hype, but I just couldn't help it. Like the fact that I went and saw this in the theater, being a horror movie, like I said, I just don't like that. The fact that I went into this at a theater is let you know, like this was like the hype for this was off the charts, and yeah, I'm gonna say it was good, not great. Good, not great. And that is, another reason I usually don't like to go to the theaters for a horror movie is there's a lot of like quiet scenes. And you can hear everything. And this theater that we went to, and I'm gonna sidebar from my topic and say I don't know how wide like across the country Showcase cinemas are. Like I used to think, like, because that was like we had like 3 big ones around here, and I used to think like Showcase cinemas must be the only cinemas in the country, because they were the only like chain cinemas that we ever had. So they were like the top dog as far as I was concerned. And then as the years went on, we've had in this area we had AMC, Regal, some of those other chains have come around, and then you got your like little independent theaters. So, a while back, a lot of cinemas went from like the like bleacher type seats or like the stadium type seats, and they did the stadium seating, but they didn't. Then a lot of theaters and chain theaters or privately owned went to like these plush recliner, like Captain Kirk fucking. Captain chairs of the Enterprise, like, with the reclining and a footrest and plenty of room, and you get the headrest, and not only does the headrest give you a place to rest, but it also drowns out some of that, it buffers some of the sound from behind you, Like, it makes such a difference. It's such a better cinematic experience. And but it's funny because as we're going there, my wife asked me, she was like, "Oh, do they have like the recliners and the good seats?" And I said, "Oh, it's Showcase. They must. This place has been there forever. Like that. This place has been there for like 50 years or so. Like since I can remember, I've been going to this place." And we get in, and no, it's fucking flip down seats that you gotta sit in to flip them down, and one cup holder in between each. So like if I'm sitting next to somebody I don't know, and I got a cup, and she got a cup, what are we gonna do? Who's got the right to that cup holder? The new places got the double cup holders and all that shit. And the place, like literally, and I know this is like kind of a morbid thought, but my first thought when I sat down in there was thinking about that fucking idiot, that fucking crazy lunatic fucking psycho that shot up a theater for the Dark Knight. Because I saw a documentary about it, and this theater looked exactly like it, and they still don't put fucking exits in the back. All right, I'm getting off on a tangent, but this was an argument that we had. Not an argument. This is like a discussion that me and her had. We were both in agreement about like how do they still have theaters like this? How do they? And they tell you like, oh, the exits are over here, and we're looking at them, and we're sitting like, in order to get like seats that weren't next to anybody, we're sitting on the opposite side of where those exits are. So like, all right, yeah, what good does that do that we know where they are if we're fucking way over here? There's nowhere to go in the back. You know what I mean? That's where everybody should be getting an emergency exit. You should have an emergency exit in the back of the theater so everybody can fucking get out that way. And how many fucking theater shootings is it going to take to figure that out? But whatever. I digress again. So Longlegs. This is turning into like a fucking diatribe about the state of fucking shoot 'em up America today. So what I think about Longlegs. Number one, doesn't live up to the hype. Way too hyped, and there's in some instances, some aspects of the film are definitely worth the hype. Like, well, basically one aspect of the film, and it's Nicolas Cage's performance. I mean, this was made for him. I mean, I feel like this movie was custom made for Nick Cage to come in and just be his crazy self. The rest of the cast was good. The acting was good. The cinematography, I loved. I loved the whole just aesthetic of the film, like the way it started in like a 70s kind of feel, and then you can actually see, if you watch and you pay attention, some people might not notice it, but after the initial opening credits, and it's kind of the pre-credit scene is like an older shot, like wherein I think the movie takes place in like the 80s. I want to say it feel 80s or early 90s kind of feel to it. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of the age. If you could figure it out, I think it's in like the 80s, early 90s. The very opening scene takes place in 1974, I want to say. So it really has that feel, and it's just a square, film, like a screen. That's all you got. Like, that's how it feels. And even like the credits and everything and all that, like I mentioned earlier. But then after the credits, like you see like the screen kind of widening slowly, almost like you should like try and like making it so like you don't notice. So let's get to my review of Longlegs before I get just right on another tangent. Did I like it? Yes. Yes, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Did it live up to expectations with the hype and the big hype train and all that? I'm gonna say no. I, but I don't hold that against it. All right, like this company Neon, the production company that put this out, they're trying to catch up to the A24s and the Bloomhouses of the world and all that stuff, and they felt like they might have caught lightning in a bottle with this, and basically with this Nicolas Cage performance that he did. And one thing I will say, without spoiler free, is that is worth the hype. I have a hard time describing his performance other than saying it was just like bizarre, and it's Nicolas Cage at his best. I mean, is he not at his best when he's like over the top, just crazy? And this was an opportunity for him to do that almost anonymously, because I'll get into why in my spoilers, but yeah, this I liked it. I liked it a lot. Now, did I buy into the hype train? Yes. I think I got my expectations got a little lofty for this one, but it's my advice. Okay, and before I get into that, I'll just give my like straight up spoiler free rating on this. So out of let's say out of a scale of 1 to 5, I'd give this somewhere between a hard 3.5 to a soft 4. Like, I'd put it somewhere in there. So it's better than average, and we're talking horror, and like my scaling is not genre specific, so this is like, an all encompassing rating, so I'm not saying like this is a 3.5 or 4 for horror movies specifically. I'm saying like in general, this is a hard 3.5 to a soft 4. I gotta see it again. That's one thing I need to see this again. If you see this in the theaters, you may have to see it again as well when it comes to streaming or however you watch it at home. But I need a chance to see this by myself, and knowing the directions that it ends up going in, going back to it and watching it all from that perspective, I would say it could only get better from 3.5. So I'm going to give it a 3.5 right now, and that's a tentative, and that's with a higher ceiling. All right, so I'm saying the floor of this movie is 3.5. It could be better. I gotta go in and watch it again, because like I mentioned, like the theater situation I wasn't happy with. So you're already kind of off put from the get go, from my perspective, just because like I didn't expect the theater to be so retro. I mean, that's another thing like I haven't really thought of. You can almost look at it like, because of the way the movie starts, it's got such a 70s retro aesthetic to it, and then you kind of like set, I want to say like 80s or 90s maybe it felt like to me, but with a movie like that, and then you're in like kind of a retro theater, maybe it might have added to the feel, the overall like feel to it, I guess I would say. But yeah, I'm gonna give it right now. I'm giving it a 3.5 with upside. Does that make sense? So I'm gonna just try to give like this spoiler free. I think that's all I can really do, spoiler free, because that's part of the hype of this, was kind of the mystery that they left you with. Like you didn't really know what this is going to be about. You kind of got those feels of like I said, like a Seven or a Silence of the Lambs, or I don't remember if they gave anything like that felt like that Zodiac thing in the trailer. I think they did, but yeah, it's definitely got like that Zodiac feel to it. So it's got all of those. There's another uh, not genre or but well, something that Stephen King fans will understand when I explain it in my spoiler review. So it starts out with that definite Silence of the Lambs feel. You got a new female FBI agent coming out on her first case, and shit goes sideways, and that's where it starts from there. All right, I'm gonna leave it at that. And that's like the first like 15 minutes we're talking about. Yeah. And then it kind of slows down. It comes to a screeching halt. Like the pre credits sequence is like holy shit, and then you get like the way they like blast the title screen on with the music. It's just you're like, yes, this is everything I thought it was gonna be. And then it kind of like slows right down, and but it brings you into that like Silence of the Lambs kind of feel, and you get to meet the the main character Lee Harker, played by Micah Monroe, and it kind of just it gets a little slow, and then there's another big sequence, boom, and then from there it gets really slow for a while, and it starts to do a little bit of exposition and but not a lot. You're not going to get a lot of explanation to what's going on, but then you get little bits and pieces. And then you start to get a little bit. They give you like little glimpses of Longlegs, Nicolas Cage's character, and you just keep wanting more. You keep wanting more, and then eventually you'll get. Oh, obviously you're gonna get like you're gonna see Longlegs for yourself, and it's like I'll tell you, it's a wild ride. It's not really fast paced. People that are looking for like a lot of action, like or a lot of gore and all that stuff. No, I mean in that sense, in that like kind of way, it does kind of resemble Silence of the Lambs. Resemble Silence of the Lambs in the Lambs. If you remember, it was very slow paced. I mean, you had little bits of the the bad scenes, like where the abductions and the killings and that, but not a lot. So in a lot of ways, it still will remind you of Silence of the Lambs with the pacing. But then it'll go. Don't expect that. Don't expect Silence of the Lambs. Do not expect any kind of big budget horror films that you're like this, that you would don't expect any of that. This is going to go in a direction that you haven't seen before, which it's a credit to Oz Perkins and the filmmakers. They it's hard to explain, but they copied or they stole or borrowed or whatever you want to call it from a lot of famous horror movies and some less famous horror movies, and they just mashed it all together, and they created this almost mannequin of what they wanted to be, and they took all the parts from these other movies. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but if you see it, or if you come back and watch my spoiler review, you'll get where the analogy there. So my final non-spoiler review for this is going to be that should you see it in the theaters or should you wait till it comes on streaming? I would say you could wait. If you're like a hardcore horror fan that really just wants to see, you're a person that normally goes to see horror movies in theaters, definitely for you. If you're somebody that doesn't usually see horror movies in the theaters, but you're hearing the hype, you want to be on the hype train, you want to be, let's find out what it is before all the spoilers come out, go see it in the theaters. If you're not too concerned about it, and personally, I think the spoilers might help you enjoy the movie, to be honest. Because, like I said, I went in it with certain expectations, and those expectations weren't met, but they went in another direction where if I was, keen on those, or if I was privy to those expectations, I might have enjoyed it more. Like if I was prepared for where it went, I might have enjoyed it more. So I'm trying to be as cryptic as possible, just not to give anything away. But hey, let's put it this way: if you're a Nicolas Cage fan, definitely see it. If you're a horror movie fanatic like I am, go see it. If you're just one of those people that don't, if you get that FOMO that you just don't want to be left out on the hype train, fuck it, go see it. If you're just a casual movie fan or a casual horror fan, you can wait. You can wait for this. I don't know what kind of spoilers are going to come out, and I don't know how long it's going to be. I don't see this taking too long to get to streaming. I think once like the buzz kind of gets killed a little bit, and people start giving like real reaction and real review to this, I think the buzz will die down. But it's still a quality horror flick that to join 2024 with what I think is a great horror movie year. I mean, I really tried to hold back from turning this into like a horror movie expose for 2024, only because of what I did in the last episode about 2024. But I think horror movie is at a boom and sci-fi is at a bust right now. But that could all change next year. So get your fill this year because we still got some fucking possibly really good horror movies coming out, including number one, what I'm looking forward to, Nosferatu, which should really be good. I mean, we've gotten a breakthrough, I feel, in slasher films in A Violent Nature. If you haven't seen that, go ahead and watch it. A Violent Nature is it's different, and it kind of reminds me of this, like where some people are going to be turned off by the pacing of it, and that's what I think. I think Longlegs may suffer for some people going out there looking for a blockbuster because this is kind of hyped up to the level of a blockbuster. Then you're not getting a blockbuster. You're getting like kind of an artsy, slow-paced, dark film with a really heavy horror ambiance to it. Like you got that aesthetic. It's very creepy all the way through. All the way through this movie, it never relents on the creepiness. But you're just not getting a lot of action or pushing the story forward. It's a lot of like a couple steps forward and a couple steps back, a couple steps forward and a couple steps back because of the way they lay out the story. So that's another part of my Longlegs review. And I'm just going to end this now before I drag it on too long. Like I said, I'm still shaking the rust off. I'm just coming off a 4-day illness that just completely incapacitated me. I'm just happy to be back and alive and doing these things again, doing podcasts again. Thank you, everybody. Please, if you like the anything about this video, just like us on Facebook with that thing instead of putting that stupid little thing in the corner of the screen there, wherever it would go, like here, and then you got the subscribe and the bell. Thank you, There it is. So there's that's what you're gonna do. Like us, subscribe us, and put on the notifications. Check us out next time. I'm gonna be putting out my full spoiler review of Longlegs on the next episode of All Geeked Out. And remember, don't take any wooden nickels.